Bless the Lord, O my soul, bless it.
Hi, thanks for tuning into Armor of God. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and hopefully you'll be edified with what we've put together for you here. Anyway, by the time this video is released, we have probably reached the 100,000th subscriber mark, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much to all of you for your continuous support, contribution, feedback, and prayers. I cannot thank all of you enough, and let's continue learning together this year as well. And just as I promised in the last video, I would like to include more real-life situations in the videos moving forward so that it would be much easier for us to relate and understand. And for that, I'll talk a little bit about Mexico. Well, recently, I have been listening to a lot of interviews and podcasts in Spanish because there are a lot of stuff that contains valuable information which aren't translated into English. However, my Spanish is very weak, and I have a couple of clips here I'd like to share with you, but I have to let you know in advance. I'm truly sorry for any mistranslations in the subtitles I've provided for you, and please do let me know if any of the translations seriously changes the original meaning of the message in the audio clips. And now that has been said, I'd like to share something with you here regarding the politicians in Mexico. And if there are any Mexicans here watching this, you can probably share your thoughts on the matter with the rest of us. But first, let me just explain the backstory of this particular interview. It was an interview with a supposedly highly respected sorcerer in Mexico who has worked with politicians such as the governor of Veracruz, former President Vicente Fox, and former Senator Diego Fernandez. Politics and witchcraft in Mexico go way back. And according to the book, The Sorcerers of Powers, written by José Gil Olmos, many Mexican presidents like Miguel de Madrid, Carlos Salinas, and Enrique Nido have come to ask for help with their political careers.
¿Cuáles son los tipos de favores que la gente pide al diablo?
Muchos son favores de venganza, muchos son favores de despojo, muchos necesitan que se le abra el portal de luz y el portal espiritual para que su negocio fecunde, su negocio fluya. Vienen a invocar al ser del inframundo para pedirles ese tipo de favor.
And this sorcerer also shared his concern during the interview regarding his colleagues in the field who take advantage of people's needs.
El asunto de la irresponsabilidad que hay ahorita en el uso y prácticas de estas cuestiones, más que un bien espiritual, es un bien comercial. Cualquiera se monta en un tema y ya de la noche a la mañana ya es curandero.
Más o menos, ¿cuánto se cobra una limpia?
Pues estos señores una limpia la cobran en 500 pesos y más aparte, total, que un cliente por jodido que venga le sacan unos 5,000 pesos. 30, 40, hasta 50,000 pesos, prometiéndole arreglar su problema. No, y aparte, si no le sigues dando dinero, ellos te extorsionan, te dicen que tienes un trabajo negro, que el trabajo negro, que el Santa quiere una ofrenda de X, que le mandes oro, que le mandes esto, y se lo mandas.
Now, after listening to this interview, I hope all of you can remember what Msgr Stephen Rossetti used to say before, many times before during his interviews regarding the black magic and white magic, or the good witch and bad witch. The truth is there's no black and white here. Any kind of magic is bad because they're not of God. And hopefully this kind of interview, which I decided to use as example here, will be able to help illustrate the reality of the problems. Anyway, after I shared the audio clip of The Exorcist based in the Philippines in the last video regarding the Satanic Rosaries, many of you asked what to do about it, and should we just get the Rosaries exorcised and blessed then? Well, I think I'll add the later part of the interview here, which I didn't include in the last video, fearing that it was too long. If you haven't watched the previous video regarding the Satanic Rosaries, it's just the one before this one, but in the meantime, here you go.
So many people surrendered their rosaries with satanic crucifixes and with satanic designs. Actually, those that were surrendered to me were contained in 5 big sacks. And the parish priest of Santo Domingo did ritual exorcism and burning of these satanic items and objects. Up to this point in time, people continue to surrender their satanic rosaries and they bring them to my office. Some people say, oh, it does not matter, so what? But it matters because our faith is centered on God, the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when God the Son became man, His name was Jesus Christ. And what Jesus Christ did to save us, to sanctify us, to bring us to the kingdom is He gave His life for us on the cross. And that's why the crucifix is very central in our faith life. And the Rosary is a kind of a summary, it's a kind of a compendium of the mysteries of Jesus from the time of His birth and even conception to the time He went up to heaven and sent the Holy Spirit on Mary and on the Church. So this is the summary of our faith then. Now the Rosary summarizes our faith in God and our faith in Jesus Christ. And that is why the attack done by these followers of Satanism is the propagation of the Rosaries with Satanic designs in order to undermine our faith, in order to mislead people, because the God of the Satanists, the God of the Freemasons is Lucifer.
And now I'd like to share an update regarding the Indian family who's been experiencing demonic infestation at their home. I did send an email to Zach here back then, and I sent him a few links to videos of Msgr Rossetti, Father Lampert, talking about demonic infestation and what to do about it. But apparently the email was not open as shown here in his video, but he's been trying out methods suggested by the others in the comment sections of his videos, which from what I could see are totally wrong, and in most cases will only make the whole thing worse. I'm not sure whether this family are Hindu or Muslims, but apparently they're placing salts around their apartment in order to ward off the evil spirits. And yet, even with that measure was taken by Zach, not surprisingly the demonic infestation continued to happen. Let me share with you a few clips I've put together from the original video, and I'd just like to say this to anyone who doesn't really like watching this kind of videos, be warned in advance. It's slightly spooky.
बालकनी का दरवाजा खुला हुआ था तुमने बंद नहीं किया क्या
मैंने किया था जी
अभी बस दुआ करो कि अंदर ना आए
अरे ये अंदर आ गया क्या
इट्स ओके मैं देखता हूँ तुम डरो मत
दरवाजा मत खोलो अंदर आ जाएगा
बच्चा सो रहा है ठीक है डरो मत तुम मैं हूँ ना इधर कहीं को डर रही हो थोड़ी देर के बाद जाता है सब लोग
There's another clip of Zach here with a toy that plays by itself, which happened around after 2 in the morning. But before I share that clip with the rest of you, let me just share this clip of Father Lampert talking about this kind of problem one might experience at home. By the way, just to add one more backstory to the problem Zach is experiencing here. The family had a maid before the haunting began, and when she was let go, when she wasn't with the family anymore, in another recording, Zach suspected that the maid had placed a curse on the family, and that was when the family began experiencing all kinds of demonic activities at home, especially between 1 to 3 in the morning.
I will say, if you believe there's some type of presence in your home, then you should have a priest come into your house and offer a very specific exorcism prayer. So there is a very specific prayer that a priest can say in a home that's troubled by evil spirits or a restless spirit, if you will. So if there's a spirit of a little boy or whatever that you said that may be present. So it's not just having the priest come in and say kind of a generic house blessing. You need a very specific blessing because you believe that there's some type of presence or entity in your home. And ultimately, whether it's the demonic entity or the restless spirit, it doesn't need to be there. But it's not just a house blessing from the Book of Blessings. It really is a very specific prayer that has to do. And sometimes people, if they're experiencing something in their home, they may do some investigation and try to figure out, is there any type of history in the home? There was a house I went to bless one time in the city of Indianapolis, and actually the whole neighborhood told me that they could see a father and a mother and 3 children, and the kids they knew the names of the children and all of that. It was a new subdivision. And when we did some research, we found out that on that site 100 years ago was an old farmhouse where the family had been murdered. And the people didn't know the history, but they actually knew the names of these entities. It was the family members that were killed in the house. So before even knowing the history, they could tell you the names of the people who died. And then after offering this very specific prayer, there was no longer any presence of these spirits, if you will.
It's a haunting time, but since we have added salt, there's no problems going on. Maybe it's a malfunction of the piano. It's cold. Jesus.
There are items that can be used in a negative sense. So when we talk about demonic infestation, it's not just in a location, but it can be associated with an object. So there are objects that can be used to advance what the devil's trying to do. So you think of voodoo or witchcraft, think of people that use magic wands, think of Ouija boards, voodoo dolls. You know, there's a lot of things that are that can be used in a negative sense. So those things are very much real. Now, if an item has a presence of evil with it, the question I would ask is the object inherently evil? Meaning, obviously, if it's a voodoo doll, it's inherently evil. But it is possible for a regular object, perhaps, to have a curse placed upon it. It may not be inherently evil, but because of the curse placed upon it, it's bringing about the presence of the demonic. And in that case, that object simply could be blessed to return it to its original state, if you will. But something that's inherently evil should always be destroyed. And again, think of things, the Ouija board, a magic wand, tarot cards, again, things like that.
Well then, that will be all for the video this time. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and as always, hopefully all of you have learned a lot from this video. And if there's any suggestion or feedback, please let me know in the comments below. But it is thanks to all of you that we can do this on a full-time basis. We'll try to include more non-English audio clips in the future, and while it does require more work, especially in making sure the translations are done right, because as I said earlier, there are a lot of materials out there that are not translated into English yet. So hopefully we can learn so much about the subject of spiritual warfare together this year. Anyway, for those of you who'd like to support our works, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contribution, and prayer. And thanks be to God, we have reached 100,000 subscribers for this channel, and if it isn't too much of a hassle, please do share this video on your social media to help spread the message. And until the next one, I'll leave this one here from a priest based in Mexico about baptisms. Again, if there's any mistranslation here on my part, please do let me know in the comments below. May God bless all of you.
El primero, y en el que yo quisiera subrayar, es que toda persona en el momento en que recibe el bautismo para convertirse en templo del Espíritu Santo, uno de los primeros signos que se le aplican después de hacer la señal de la cruz es ponerle un óleo, un aceite que en la antigüedad significaba no solamente fortaleza por el poder curativo del aceite de olivo, sino también que significa algo que permite que se resbalen las cosas. De hecho, los luchadores griegos en la antigüedad, cuando iban a luchar, se llenaban de aceite para que el enemigo no pudiera atraparlos y se resbalaran fácilmente. De alguna manera, este sentido del óleo santo que se le pone a los niños o a los adultos en su bautismo significa eso. Si vas a ser templo de Dios, si vas a ser hijo de Dios, Dios te da una protección especial para que el demonio no te haga daño. De tal manera que podemos decir que esta es la razón por la que algunas personas cuando al niño lo bautizaban decían: ya le cortaron los cuernitos al diablo. Es decir, le han quitado poder al demonio sobre esta persona porque ahora es hija de Dios y templo del Espíritu Santo y Dios la va a proteger, la va a acompañar y la va a ayudar. Así que esto nos va a llevar a una primera conclusión. Una persona bautizada, una persona que viva de acuerdo a lo que Dios le pide, una persona que tenga una vida espiritual, quizás no muy elevada, pero por lo menos una vida espiritual media, será muy difícil que sea poseída por el demonio.